Welcome to Whatcha Makin, a podcast about sharing ideas and connecting with the maker community. Your hosts are Alex Adams of Type A Furniture and Alex Duffey of Duffey Woodcraft. Whatcha Makin is proudly sponsored by Next Wave CNC.
Oh, what you making in the shop today? Yeah. Got a couple Alice's to show you the way, from the blueprints to the shavings on the floor. Pull up a stool, let's see what's in store.
Welcome to Whatcha Makin. This is the podcast where we talk all about what's on our bench, spotlight makers throughout the community, and remind you that today, June 17th, on this day in 1885, the Statue of Liberty arrived in New York Harbor from France, packed inside 214 wooden crates, which coincidentally is the exact same number of delivery boxes sitting on my garage waiting for me to unpack them so I can find what I'm looking for. Tonight's main topic is Burnout. I'm Alex Duffey, and you can find me on Instagram and on YouTube at Duffey Woodcraft.
Do you think they used the pallets that those came in and made some furniture out of that?
I mean, back then it was probably really nice pallets and hardwood because it came from France, so I would have.
French wood.
Mm-hmm.
But is it, wait. No, yeah, it'd be actual French wood because it wouldn't be sparkling wood because it came from the whatever region of France.
Right?
Exactly. So they're not sparkling pallets.
No, it would be brute. Or no brute. No brute.
Wait, is that the
Brute is the champagne.
Oh, that's
a type of
okay.
champagne.
Sorry, I thought you were going like Julius Caesar on me, where it was like, didn't he say something Adele Brute or something like that?
No, that's et tu brute, which, you know,
that's the
and
one.
you
That's
Brutus.
the one. Yes. Yeah, I thought you were going a different direction on that. Also, I thought that you were like also going to say like statue of limitations of something. So I also read that completely wrong, which it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to
Just
read
saying,
a
I've
room,
had a
so.
lot of boxes delivered lately, and there's just a lot of it on my garage floor. So, yeah.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Who are you?
I think oh yeah, I do need to do that. I forget. I am Alex Adams over at Type A Furniture on Instagram. And also we are supported by patrons. And if you would like to become a patron, go to patreon.com/whatchamakinshow. And you'll find various Patreon tiers that you can be a part of.
And remember, Whatcha Makin is proudly sponsored by Next Wave CNC. If you're looking for the best CNC on the market today, look no further than a Shark CNC from Next Wave. For the month of June, they're running an accessory special. If you purchase any new HD6 series, you'll get the 3 horsepower spindle included with purchase for free.
And as they always say, more horsepower, less problems.
Indeed.
What you doing?
So on the bench this week. So for me, my new CNC has finally arrived. Yay! Where's my sound? There it is. So I have a new CNC. It is being unboxed currently on my shop floor. Unfortunately, FedEx sucks and damaged one of the boxes. So Next Wave is very kindly overnighting me a replacement part for something that had broken, because it was definitely looked like a pallet had been put on my pallet, which it's not supposed to be. So one of the things was very squished.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did it have something on top to signify that it should not be stacked?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember on some pallets there was it was like a little like pyramid, like cardboard pyramid, and it'd be very obvious if that had been damaged. Kind of like when you like they have the like don't break this seal, and you could tell if it's been tampered with scenario. Because I've seen those on pallets before, and I was like, yeah, that is a very good indicator on if someone did not follow directions.
Yeah. No, unfortunately, a couple of the encoders, the little an encoder is for the stepper motor, but it has a light on it, and so the lights on the encoders were damaged on 2 of them. So they're shipping me out the new ones, which is great. And they're, like I said, very kind that they're shipping them out overnight. So I'm going to get them tomorrow. So I'll continue on with my CNC. So I'm filming a YouTube video for that. This is the modified version. I can officially talk about it now. So this is a modified version of the 644, the Next Wave 644 Shark. Modified because this normal 644 is a 4x4 machine. This is still a 2x4 for me, because that's kind of what my shop can handle right now. But I had been working with them, and they wanted me to kind of test the platform and see how it looks out. So yeah, so I'm getting the modified version, and it's going to be really cool. I'm super excited. I've got about half set up right now. I ran into those couple of broken parts, so I stopped at the point where they're required. And
now, because the main difference on that 644 platform is that it doesn't have the aluminum extruded bed, correct?
Correct. Yes, it is. It is like it is a rail system like Onefinity and other brands that are out there. Avid has one, so it is Shapeoko. That's the other word I'm thinking of. They also have a rail system, and so yeah, so it's one of them. What I do like about the Next Wave one is it is a steel. It is fully steel, and including the X and Z arm is steel backed, so there's no deflection whatsoever in it, and it's got supports on the bars on the wire rails, so again, no deflection. And that's what a lot of machines have problems with that are these rail systems, is deflection. And again, a reason why I love Next Wave, because they kind of think about that. They listen to users, and instead of just rushing something to the market, they do their research. And so yeah, so I'm super excited to start playing around with that. So that's going to be put together here this week, and like I said, I'm filming the YouTube video right now, so I'll start doing that. And that's the other thing that's on my bench, is I've got a couple of YouTube videos in the can currently, so I need to be editing them. So I'm working on that. And then I have 2 more videos that I'm filming. So I know in this year, for my patrons and for my YouTube followers, I know it's been a rough year. I've only released like 3 videos this entire year so far, but I have already like 5 either in the can or planned at the moment. So I will have a lot more coming out very shortly. So yeah, so that's kind of been what's on my bench, and I'll talk more about what else took up my time this week in the What You Sellin' section. But yeah, very simple, just building a new CNC, which is super fun because, you know, you get to read all the manuals and do all the fun things.
Right.
Yeah, I'm having a great time. I'm loving it. It's a big kid erector set, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So yeah, what have you been up to this week?
For myself, so I've been putting some work on that walnut dining table, which for those who have followed along with that one, I had a little bit of a gap in time where I wasn't working on it. I think I had mentioned it last week. I was working on a little bit because I had hurt my dad. Yeah, excuse me. I hurt my back, and then my grandpa had passed away. Yeah. And so I kind of got out of the rhythm on that project, and I had like tried to do other stuff that I could do at that time. And then that stuff it was going a little bit longer than anticipated with like the kids, their stuff with the plaques, and then like all of the stuff with state track and all of the track stuff and everything like that. So I've gotten back into that project. And so I had the panel glue ups on this one because I had been doing the panel glue ups in stages. Because as a reminder, it is a table that actually expands. So it's got essentially 2 tabletops and then 3 leaves. Those leaves are about a foot wide, and then, or sorry, not a foot wide, a foot in one direction, and then widthwise it's the same 4 feet. And so I had gotten those final panel glue ups in for each side of those tables, which were 4x4s, and those were in the clamps. I was sanding down all of the extra squeeze out of the glue, and getting those up to the grit that I had, or at least gotten close to the grit up to about 180 it's not quite the final grit, but I will get there eventually. And then I'm currently sanding those 2 portions of the tabletop as of right now. So in that glue up, it was a very nerve-wracking glue up because this is essentially a 4x4 piece. It's a little bit more in the side directions because I kept the extra offcut portion of those so that I had a little bit to work with and that I was going to cut to width afterwards. But anyway, I have the 4-way clamps that I was using as my primary clamping method, and I used 4 of those, and so they're the Clampzilla version, which are basically extruded tube steel that's powder coated. So I had 4 of those on, and then I filled in the gaps with the basically parallel clamps with the swivel head on there, which is about it's like a 6-inch wide head. And the reason that I want that one on there is because it's got that extra rubbery surface that does not dent like the actual parallel clamps will on those ends. Which I had done the same thing, or not same thing, same concept with those 4-way panel clamps, where I put in a sacrificial piece of wood so that it would dent that, as opposed to the actual workpiece. So I just put it, it's like a 1/4-inch thick and like maybe 1.5 inches wide, and then like 6 inches long or something like that piece that I put in there, so that it takes because you've got that kind of like almost like bow tie shape in these panel clamps. So I didn't want that dent to be in there because I've had that in the past happen. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't deal with that. So I did for the first one that I did of the 2, I did a full-on practice clamp up, like everything laid out so that I know where everything goes. Just put in the loose, like test dominoes that I have for alignment, got everything together, clamped it down to make sure that, like, yes, everything is good to go, because practice makes perfect, and it would kind of sniff out any issues that I would have where it's like, oh, I forgot to like get this thing ready or whatnot. So then you're not frantic and trying to deal with the glue drying too soon and things go haywire. So that practice dry fit was very, very helpful. And so I got the first one together. The one like mistake that I made with that one, it's not really like a mistake, but there was one, because there were 2 glue seams on that, because I had glued together a few of the boards prior in the sub assemblies. So there were only actually 2 spots where I needed to add glue. One of them I was planning on doing just like original Type Bond, and then the other one I was going to do the Type Bond 2 dark, just because there wasn't any sapwood in the second one, and I ended up doing just the original on both, which is not like a huge deal, but it was just like one of those preference things where it's like, if there were to be any like issues or something didn't line up like super well and tight, that extra like darkness in the glue would have kept everything looking really, really good in the event of whatever. But like, it's fine as of right now, so I should be all right. The more challenging thing, actually, after all the glue had dried, was moving that 4x4 piece off of the bench without denting it, so that I had space to do the next glue up. And one thing that I have is I have this pencil sharpener on the end of the bench. So it's like, oh crap, I got to be careful around that, because if I slide it directly down, it's going to hit directly on that and damage the face of it, which when I do my glue ups, I do the show face down, just because the glue drips off so much cleaner. So I get a easier cleanup on that side. So, and through some of the sub-assemblies that I had done, and with the 4-way panel clamps going all the way down to the surface and basically hitting that glue, like normally I would wipe all that stuff away and go in with a wet cloth and like get it all the way cleaned up so it's basically pristine and there's no extra squeeze out there. But like with that, it's just like it becomes extra work, and then you're just like spreading it underneath the 4-way pressure clamp. And I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna glue it, whatever squeezes out, and then I will sand it down later. So that's kind of the approach that I had. And then moving back over to the extra table leaves that I was sanding down where I had the glue squeeze out, I was kind of going back and forth between a couple methods of dealing with that glue squeeze out, where I was like, oh, like I was using side cutters to basically cut off the little blobs, and then come in with the chisel to go a little bit more level. Because sometimes if you've got that like bigger, taller piece, it can like pop over and take a little bit of wood with it. So then you need to like go back through and patch it back in, which I did have to do that a couple of times, which is not like a big deal when you just put a dab of super glue on there and put it on. But I had one that was giving me issues so much that I was like, I'm just going to go straight back to sanding this down because I am having just issues in general. So I went back to just like going, because I go down all the way down to 40 grit for these to really get that glue pulled away, because there's also just like that occasional little bit of misalignment in between each of the boards, which you can kind of tell with that glue squeeze out, where it's like, oh, you go over with a sander and there's still a little bit on this other side, because there's that like less than a 64th or so that one board is a little bit higher than the other in spots, just because sometimes you've got a little bit of cup or bow or whatever as they're being put together. And so that's why I do 40 grit down there, is to get it down flat and then progress my way through the grits, so that I get to the grit that I actually want. So anyway, to kind of wrap all this stuff up, so where I'm at right now, I mentioned I was working on sanding down the 4x4 pieces. And then what I'm going to do, because originally my plan for the next step was going to be take it outside, put all of the boards together so that they are lined up, and then just straight rip with a track saw down the side to cut off all the extra stuff so everything is like lined up to width, and then mark in where my table alignment, essentially dominoes, are going to go for the leaves and everything like that. But with all of the, heat and rain and all of that stuff, I'm just going to have to modify the basement shop a little bit in order to accommodate for that. So what I'm going to do is, once I get those things sanded, there's pieces are going to kind of go up against the wall. I'm going to move the bench further down the length of the shop. I'm going to put down my foam insulation boards on the floor, and then I'm going to set and lay it all on the floor because I have like just enough space. And then I'm going to run the track saw over it, because then I don't have to worry about first of all, moving all of the stuff outside to have it cut. And then second, if it's setting out there for any meaningful amount of time, any like weird expansion contraction that can cause misalignment issues or anything along those lines. Because I know it's wood, it's going to move. But if I'm doing it in an environment that is similar to what it's going to be living in indoors, there shouldn't be that much change that happens between those two, because I'm going to be walking it over to the neighbor's house. And so it's not really going to be outside that often, that much when we do that. Because it's like, it'll be outside for maybe a minute or two at most as it gets moved over. So it's like, it's not going to experience that much change being outdoors. And that's going to be the most extreme temperature humidity change it's probably going to endure. So that shouldn't be that much of an issue. So that's kind of my plan with that stuff. So I'll rip it straight with a track saw, and then I'll make my marks to add my dominoes, because I'm using the dominoes as the alignment pins. Then I'll pull those out, I'll add in the dominoes, and then I will work on getting those finished, and then I do have most of like the legs dimensioned. I just need to get the apron lengths corresponding to the lengths that it needs to be with the tops, because sometimes you get a little bit of a change in dimension, because I had a little bit of a change in dimension on these, because I can't remember if you would recall, but I had, when I was getting my track saw, for whatever reason, there were like, it had gone slightly off of 90 when I had made the cuts, so I had to go back through with the track saw put back into 90, and that shaved off like a 30-second on a bunch of boards, which adds up to something that's slightly meaningful, so I have to readjust the apron length, which is why I didn't cut the aprons until after the fact. So then the overhang on the top of the table is uniform throughout, so that won't be too big of a deal. And then we'll be assembling it in their house, with the mechanism for extending and collapsing the table, because it'll be easier to walk it over there piece by piece and then assemble it inside, so then I have to deal with like assemble, put together, disassemble, move over, or what have you. So that's kind of the long-winded portion of the walnut diving cable. And then on the 3D print side of things, I have been I had to bulk up some inventory on some of my like really long dragons, because I had someone who wanted some color options, because they were going to get some birthday presents for their grandkids. So I churned out a few extra different colors, and now I'm pretty good on inventory on those, because I made quite a bit during the Christmas market, because I didn't know what to expect on that one inventory wise, so I should be good on that for a while. And then I did find a new dragon egg model to print, just for some slight improvements. And then I've been going through and finding just like general articulating animals, just like kids' favorite animals, like sharks, dolphins, sea turtles, like that kind of thing, and printing those off. Because generally speaking, what flies off of the table at markets for me really easily are the ones that are like that I sell for around like $10 a piece. Like those are like really, really easy sells. And then I do have a couple of things that are in that like $20-$30 range, but those ones don't fly off quite as easy depending on the event. There's a specific kind of person, and that kind of person generally isn't at my farmers markets, but they'll be at those like swim meets or some of those other bigger markets. And then I put in and I've got part of my order of a bunch of filament that I had ordered, because like 2 or 3 times a year I'll put in a big order for filament for what I'll need for like the coming months, because you get the bulk discount with that stuff. So I kind of I pay attention to what I've been using, what I've been kind of getting low on, and then I place that order, because it's like, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's like 40% cheaper when you get like it in like 10 or more rolls. And then I also bought a few plates, because those do occasionally wear down over time. Because one that I'm excited about is the Super Tack plate that they have. They have like a pro version now, which that one I'm excited to see how that one changed. Because one thing that I noticed is that the Super Tack plate, the bamboo version, the coating on it seems almost like, I'm trying to describe it. You know, sometimes people do the was like vinyl on cars where it's like it looks really nice, almost like paint, but then when it kind of starts to peel, like you can actually like peel it. It's almost kind of like that material, not quite as like peel off quite as easy, but enough in the sense that like when it takes on like scratches or something like that, it becomes noticeable, because I've had to like flip over to the other side of the plate when it was performing just fine, because I've got like huge scratches on there that it kind of like, it didn't necessarily peel back, but it just kind of like scraped, which
Right.
the super tack plate that I have from I always forget how it's pronounced, like BIQ or something like that, BIQU. They have one version of it. It's like this light blue color. It's like their cryo grip or whatever. This has been performing well, and the coating on that one is more akin to like powder coating, so it feels a lot more durable. It's not quite as adherent as the super tack that's from Bamboo, but its longevity and durability is a little bit better, is what I've found. So I'm curious to see with that Super Tack Pro how that compares. So as I use that, we'll see if it performs well. And then of course I got a few of their just like normal like texture PEI plates that I use a bunch of. And then actually, so my in-laws, they actually had their basement flood as a result of some of the rain. I think it was through like a egress window or something. And they had a bookshelf that kind of got some water damage that they were just going to toss. And they're like, hey, do you want this? I was like, absolutely, I'll take it. So that's what as I've been printing more stuff with PETG, I've gotten more PETG colors and I need a spot to store that. So I put that in our 3D print room to hold more of that filament up. So that has freed up some of the floor space. Because I was leaving some of the rolls of filament on the ground, and as it was using more PETG filament, it was kind of taking up space, and I was kind of dancing around that stuff a little bit as I was like walking around that room, because it's like a 10 by 10 room. So it's like once you start taking up some of that floor space, it kind of starts getting cramped pretty quick. So anyway, that's all of the stuff that I have been working on here recently.
Help is on the way, dear!
So for our Whatcha Breaking section, why don't I jump in first? So my CNC, like I said, those parts broke and Next Wave is sending them overnight. That's been the main thing that didn't do so well in the shop. I did, when I was moving my old CNC onto its new base, I heard a little cracking when I put it on the new base. And I think I was like pushing too hard. And one of the support beams was like, creaking, cracking. So I put it on a couple extra supports on the table just to make sure that it is not going to wiggle around on me when it's running and get too loose. So
creaking like wooden floors kind of creaking, or like popping?
No, like I was more like popping. Like I was because so the table, is, or the base I had built for it is a big, 5x8 table on wheels, right? And so I pushed the CNC onto it, and I think I pushed it a little too hard as it came down, and the legs went, a little too crooked from the weight being pushed onto it on a diagonal instead of up and down. Yeah, and so they were making a little bit of a noise. So there was no cracks that I saw, and it wasn't wiggling or anything, but it was just enough that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna put in a couple extra braces just to make sure that this isn't gonna move on me. And then I wheeled that out, and then it's also been I've been doing a little bit of cleaning, which is nice. Other than that, not really much has gone wrong in the shop per se. The weather has been a piece of junk lately. It's so weird. This year for us, at least here in the Pacific Northwest, has been a mix of super hot, super cold and wet, super hot, super cold and wet. And it just goes back and forth. And so, like this weekend was the very first market, for which I'll talk about more in the selling section. But the last week and a half, it's been in the mid 80s and sunny. And then this last 3 days, including the market day, it was 50 and pouring rain.
Yeah, we've kind of had those like swells between those extremes as well.
Right. Which is so abnormal for us. Like, we're usually, the Pacific Northwest is so like steady when it comes to temperature and rain or cold and sun. Like we don't get, especially this time of year, it's usually overcast and 70s, and that's about it. Like the fact that we're already getting, they're saying this weekend we're going to get to 98 degrees already.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's going to be like that one summer when like, oh God, was that like 21 or 22 when there was like that heat wave and there were just like people are buying like air conditioning units up there? What year was that? That happened?
Oh yeah, well that's been pretty much every year, but I think the one you're talking about is 22, and that's the year we had all the fires up here too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. So yeah, so more of just a little inconvenience here, and I know our listeners other places are like whatever, but for us it's just been making plans unpredictable, which has been frustrating, especially when it comes to like markets and woodworking. So but yeah, that's what's not been going well with my shop. What about you?
So we'll start with the one that's kind of like adjacent to the shop. Slight bit of backstory on this. So, my one grandpa who's still with us, he's not driving anymore. And the, Buick LeSabre that he had, I actually went with him when we picked up that vehicle when he first bought it. And like he said, when we were there, he's like, you know, when I'm done driving, I'm going to give you this vehicle. So I got it from him a couple weeks ago or something like that. We took the same picture that we had in front of it originally from essentially 20 years ago. And so like as soon as that comes in, my wife was like, so we're going to sell the Sonata. I was like, whoa, no, we're not going to do that. Like, I want to have a third car. 'Cause like,
why?
You know, what?
Why
would I have a third car? Well, I have high mileage vehicles and they're periodically in the shop. And lo and behold, like the week and a half after that, the CRV, the ignition broke. So like you couldn't even turn the key on the ignition. So it was stuck. And actually even prior to that, our in-laws,
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it was like, so it would go in, but it would not turn. So it was like the whatever the like immobilization feature that is in there, for whatever reason that stuff broke. But also like just like a few days prior to that, our in-laws, their like Cadillac SUV, like for whatever reason the electronics just went haywire, and so they were borrowing our Sonata while we were using the other two vehicles. And
I have an answer for you.
What?
Sell 2 of the high mileage cars and buy 1 low mileage car.
No. So I take care of my vehicles. So yeah,
I'm hearing this.
No, so anyway, this is probably one of the like the rare occurrences where it was like an actual issue that like the vehicle could not do anything. So anyway, so then we're like basically back down to like 1 car because our in-laws were borrowing the other ones. We're like, hey, like we need the other one back, so we got it back a couple days later. So yeah, like it's just nice to have the third one for whatever like other vehicle goes in the shop for whatever. You don't have to worry about rides and who's going where. And the other thing too is they're older vehicles. Insurance is super cheap, so it's just like a nice little like if something goes awry with, you know, whatever, you've got a spare vehicle for what have you.
What I'm hearing is you're going to end up with one of those guys that has like 10 cars on his lawn. And
I'm not a project car kind of guy. Like I'm not into trying to restore
they're not
vehicles.
project cars. They're just cars that stopped running and they just didn't get rid of it.
No, I'm not like that kind of guy. Like I'm not doing that. That's actually probably what a couple of our neighbors across the street actually do, which is a whole other story.
So you're just joining the neighborhood party, I see.
No, they're no. That's not what we're doing. So anyway, cuz like the CRV, it's a nice vehicle, like it runs well. And you can get a lot of miles out of it. So this car ignition system So basically it ends up being $1,100 to replace that stuff. Which what actually happened is it's the parts from Honda that were genuine were cheaper than like a third party set of parts. So I was like, oh, okay, like that's good. The other thing though is that they didn't tell me that they weren't gonna like swap out the locks, the other physical locks, like the glove box and the driver's side one, which is only gonna be like another like $100. I'm like, that's kind of annoying. So like I don't have like we have the old keys that can physically unlock those in the event that like say like your battery dies or whatever. So I'll probably just end up swapping out those locks, which is, those ones are probably not going to be that big of a deal to do. But I like holding on to that stuff just because like insurance is super cheap. And if you do have something catastrophic happen to it, it's not like a big issue. So that's just how I roll, generally speaking. So
I'm the opposite way. I like to have a new vehicle. Yes, I'm making payments on it, but it's reliable. It's under warranty. If anything goes wrong, I get a replacement. Call it good. But just different. Yeah. Anything else go wrong?
I'm okay with paying the old car tax.
Yeah.
One other thing was, so there was this bird feeder in the shape of a Death Star that I was trying to print in PETG, and occasionally when you're trying to print a spherical object, sometimes there are issues with those first few layers being kind of funky. And by funky, I mean like not the spherical shape that you want it to be, like, because you get a little bit of residual heat that comes off of the print bed.
Yeah, so it kind of sags a little bit.
Yeah, or it like recesses weird or whatever. And so I thought maybe if I changed the support settings that I might get it to be a little bit different, because I think the original support settings on it were that shape that was like the rectangular style of supports. So I switched it over to tree supports, and then I switched the angle of support to be a little bit higher so it would support more of it. So it'd be supported higher up, but it still had issues because I also added, because normally they do 2 interface layers in between the tree supports and the actual object. I also added a 3rd layer on that one because usually that helps with print quality. But I was still experiencing issues on that one, where like you're peeling off the supports and it just doesn't look right. Like functionally it's okay, but it's just like, this is not what I wanted. So it's just like one of those things where it's like, you know what? I'm not going to mess around with this any further because it's just one of those things where it's just like an issue. No, I'm not going to burn it. I'm not going to do that. So anyway, that was one issue that I ran into where it's just like, I just put up the white flag and I was like, I'm just not going to deal with that battle anymore. The other issue that I've actually been running into is Bamboo Studio being a little bit clunky. And I don't know if like, because somehow I think I got on the beta download path or something like that somehow. So whenever it updates, it's a little bit more of a new version than I think this is the normal public release. And I've been noticing, like, as I've been trying to like even open files, it's taken a really long time to get files to even open. So I don't know if that's partially just because I do have stuff in a Dropbox folder. So I don't know if like they made some change that it makes it more difficult for it to like pull those files initially. Because it first started off like I noticed, gosh, was it like a couple weeks ago? That I noticed like when I had a file up and I went to like move something around, when I like, put more duplicates on a plate and then went to move it around, like it lagged when I was keying it down to move it over. So it started with that, and then it has progressed over to when I was actually opening the files, like taking forever. The like lagging when I'm moving around the files, it's not happening quite as much anymore. So I think this is, I mean, it's all software stuff, but hopefully it's something that gets fixed. So it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, I guess if I'm pulling a bigger file, I'll just go do something else while it's loading and taking longer to pull up everything and get it going. So yeah, that's what I had that wasn't going quite right. And then, the other thing that I had was, I had to steam out some dents in those walnut boards. Because they were just like, a couple of them were dents from clamps, which I think I had mentioned earlier that I had learned with those to go to the swivel clamps because they have a little bit softer of a pad on those. So there's a little bit of that. It was just like once or twice that it happened. And then a couple of spots where it was just like you're carrying stuff around and it hit something and you're dented like right on the edge, which those ones also popped out just fine. So easy fix there.
Nice.
Shut up and take my money.
So in this segment, what you're selling, so I mentioned a little bit earlier, my first Saturday market was this past weekend. So I am, for the first time, I'm doing a regular spot at a Saturday farmers market for the summer. And so I'm doing every other week going forward. So the first one, like I mentioned, was wet and cold. It was 50 degrees. It was raining. We even had some thunderstorms at one point, which was pretty crazy. Which we don't get thunderstorms out here. They don't usually have time to form past the mountains. So it was kind of weird to even hear them, but it was crazy being under a tent and having thunderstorms. With that all said, I was really surprised how well it went. Because this is a Saturday market, it's a small town. It's Redfield, Washington. Wow, I apologize. Yawning here. The market, I was told, brings about 600 to 700 people every Saturday. So I initially, when I was planning my, all right, how much money can I actually make each day? I was like, all right, well, if the $600 to $700 or 600 to 700 people, if I can get 1% of that and I make my average sale, which is $33, I would make somewhere just over $100 a week that I'm there. And I'm like, it's not great money, but it's a $15 market. And I literally get to go and hang out with another friend of mine who is also a vendor. And we asked to be sat next to each other. So like we would just hang out and talk anyway, and with our wives and just have fun. And so it was like, cool, let's do that. And I made just about $500 in sales for this first week.
Nice.
And even with it raining most of the time, which was really surprising. Now we spent like $350 because we bought, somebody was selling some raised cedar planter beds, and they were some of the best built beds I've ever seen. He actually dadoed the corners together too. Like they are incredibly solid and well built. And so we immediately bought one of those, and we bought a couple of flats of berries to freeze, and some bread and some plants. And so hopefully this means the rest of our purchases are done, because we don't need to buy more plants, and we don't need to buy another raised bed. But man, it was just
then
like,
you just start doing the barter system between all the vendors at that point.
Right. And normally I would, but I wanted to support these first ones. So, yeah. So, but like I said, it was a lot better than I expected. So I was really, really happy with it. And then I also have another opportunity. So tomorrow I'm actually meeting with a museum, the Columbia Gorge Museum. They reached out to me and they want to have some of my work at their gift shop. They really like my little Sasquatches I sell, and bookmarks and some other things. And so I'm going to go meet with them tomorrow and chat what that might look like. And I'm trying to debate, like, all right, how much do I have time to add another store? How much do I have time to add to custom projects? Because he really wants artisan stuff. And I'm like, well, okay, I need to know what that means for him. Like, is he wanting one-off pieces, or is artisan stuff. Like, I mean, because technically the stuff I make is artisan stuff, but is he wanting like actual artwork?
Right.
Which is a different thing. So, so I'm working on that myself. And Alex, for those who are listening, has got up from his chair and walked to the background, and he's like, now he's going underneath some cables. He dropped his keys, which I heard. Don't know what he's doing.
Sorry, my dehumidifier was getting loud.
Oh, could not hear it whatsoever. I heard your dogs earlier, but I could not hear that.
No, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that was not getting picked up.
It's funny. So yeah, so it'll be good. I will report back next week on how that first meeting goes with the museum. It may work out, it may not. We'll see. But that's what I've got for this segment.
How did the in-person interaction at the farmers market, did that differ from the typical markets that you do? Like, was the clientele different?
Yes, I would say so. Because a lot of them I do are like those themed markets. So there wasn't necessarily that to talk about, like the theme or that. But so I play music at all of my markets. I have a boombox going with a market playlist. And so that usually brings something to talk about, or somebody's jiving to it as they walk up. And there were definitely a lot of people that were just, the guys out for a Saturday market to walk around and look what is out there. At the beginning, before the rain hit. And then once the rain hit, it was definitely only people that were there to buy were there, because why else would you be out?
Fair.
So I assume as the summer hits here, when we get more just the nice sunny days, that will just get more people who are walking around and looking instead of buying.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I did try a new strategy I bought a 5 foot by 2 foot tall A-frame magnetic board. So it's a big magnetic board sign. And I made a whole bunch of $5 magnets, wooden magnets to put up. And that was about half my sales. So I think those are going to do well because they're easy $5 grab and goes. Yeah. And so, if I can pull a couple $100 of magnets in every time, that's great, and they cost like 25 cents to make. So easy.
Yeah. Remind me what was the duration of that farmer's market?
It is 9 to 2.
Okay, so that's a pretty substantial amount of time, because mine is 5 to 7. So mine's only a 2-hour window, and yours was
or AM.
PM.
Oh, weird. Interesting.
Yeah, so it's just a 2-hour window.
I've never seen an evening market on a Saturday market.
This is during a weekday. It's on Thursdays. Is when ours is. So it's not a Saturday farmers market. So there's
we have a Wednesday
there.
one here in the area that's like 3 to 6 or something like that. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it fits in that window. So I was just curious, like how much of a time suck that was. So yeah.
I mean, it's a good amount of time, but it's still, for me, it's about having fun. And right now I'm using these markets to get my brand out more. The people who are walking around, they're grabbing cards, and they'll know, like, I have a sign up that says, thinking about Christmas presents, custom orders I can do. You must have the custom order in by August 1st.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because it works out great for, like, I mean, even like birthday presents or holidays or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're probably a little bit far gone. Because let's see. Because Father's Day is, God, when is Father's Day? Is it like the 20-something of June? Is it this upcoming weekend? Okay.
Well, from when this airs, this weekend.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So for me, so I had the farmer's market and the swim meet. So this farmer's market was, it was the first time that I had set up the, so some of those wind spinners that I had made. Cause I think the previous week I didn't, because it was just like, I was a little bit more strapped for time, for setup. So I was just like, I just don't have time to do that for the setup. So I did set those up, and how I did those was they're meant to be like bolted to a post or whatever. So I just took some clamps and just clamped them to my tent on one of the legs, so that there was like basically 3 different directions, and some of them were one above the other. So like I would occasionally get a gust of wind that would actually get them moving. But those did garner a little bit of attention. And then I did get some attention from the helmets that I set up, because I had like the Mandalorian and the Stormtrooper helmet set up. So those garnered a little bit of attention. And then I set up the it's like that wire panel setup. It's like the trifold thing. So what I did with that one was I set that up on the sidewalk across from the sidewalk of where I was, because that's normally it's empty spots. So I was like, oh, more real estate. Because I know in the past summer I would kind of like sprawled out widthwise, and they got on me a little bit about not going like too far over, even though other people weren't using that like widthwise space. So I'm just trying to like get as much display space as I can. So what I did with that one is I put the hitch covers on that, and then different colors of like the long dragons that I have. They're like the 5-foot long ones, and draping those over. And one thing that actually helped, and this because this was during the teardown, was that my wife was like, you just leave the hitch covers on there, right? And I was like, actually, yeah, if I fold it this way, that'll leave it on there so I don't have to like set up and tear down. So those are just like the display ones that are kind of like essentially locked in, because you've got the hitch pin little piece on there. I've moved over, like I've converted all of those designs to be the like spring loaded thing, so that it just pops out on the sides. But since some of those earlier ones use the hitch pin, it's like those will just lock in there. So it cannot come all the way out, because it's wide enough to block that from coming out. So it's like, yeah, that'll work up, and that'll save me setup and tear down time. So I'm looking a little bit at what else I can put on that display that I can still fold it up, but still keep some type of inventory on there, so that it's, you know, it reduces the amount of setup and tear down time that I have on that weekly basis, so that I can still offer a wide variety of stuff without spending more and more time during the setup and tear down side of things. And then gosh, I'm trying to think of what else was at that market. If there's anything else noteworthy. And then at the swim meet, similar scenario. I had one lady that had said that she was going to come back, get some like birthday present dragons and dragon eggs and stuff. And one issue that I ran into with my dragon eggs, this is why I switched over to a different dragon egg design, was that since they twist open, some of the tops of the scales, they kind of protrude up a little bit. And so like as the kids touch and they move and they come them off, like pull them off, they were going off to the side, and it was like chipping off the tips of those dragon scales. So I switched over to a design that like everything was packed in, so nothing was sticking out that could get broken that I would have to like discount. And it's like, it's no fault of the kids. It's just like, I just need to find something that's a little bit more durable in general. Cause you know, we all have, you know, stuff that happens with inventory where like something might be a little bit more delicate. And like, I ran into one of those issues with like one of the small kind of like 3D Pokemon cards that I had, where like the kid like damaged it afterwards, and like they brought it back to me like, hey, can we switch this out? And I was like, I did not sell it, but like this was like noticeable, like set like an arm and like an antenna and like other stuff had like popped off, and I'm like, I can repair it for you if you have the pieces. That's what I told them that I would do. But that particular thing I'm not gonna restock on anymore, because I try not to make stuff super delicate, so that it actually lasts. So you know, sometimes you try it and you find out that it's not quite as durable as you think. 'Cause it's like, yeah, you want to have extra detail, but not so much that it, you know, compromises the quality of the actual piece. I'm curious, have you dealt with that a little bit in some, because you have some models that are a little bit more detailed than others, right? That might have smaller pieces. I mean, I deal more with kids,
right?
Or rougher on things.
I do. I mean, I've made toys in the past, like little wooden cars, and I just try and over-engineer it as much as possible so that it's safe. Or a single. I try and do as few moving parts as possible, so that, you know, no choking hazards or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah. Otherwise, no. Unfortunately, most of my stuff is. I try and make as simple as possible, so I don't do a lot of detail on it because I'm trying to, you know, mass produce. So.
Yeah, because the only one I could think of that was like, could have a risk of people breaking is like the alien ship with like the beam where it's like it's kind of tall. That was the only one that I could think of that like people could damage.
They could. So those, like when I show them, they're set back away, and I have a sign that just says "Please don't touch." But most of it, like the ships, are glued onto an acrylic rod, which are inset into the wood a few inches. So like, even if it does fall, you're more likely to break the wood than you are the acrylic rod.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, because I forgot about this. Because one thing that I had was this, like, it's like this little mortar rocket launcher thing that has this big red button that you press that it just uses the air to launch the little rocket. And that was a very popular item that I had sold at both the farmer's market and the swim meets. But one thing that I was running into was that the plastic spring that was in there, it was a hotter day at the swim meet, and I had noticed as the kids were pressing it, it was not coming back up as far. And so the heat in that little chamber, because it's using air to push the projectile, I was like, oh yeah, like if that's in the sun, it's going to heat up in that chamber. And so what I had done to mitigate that is like I would kind of swap out the one that was like on display, and I like when it was warm I would bring it back, stretch out the spring and hold it, and then let it cool off, so then it was back to the length that it needed. So I actually switched over and printed some that spring portion in PET G for future items, for that added heat resistance over PLA, because I just didn't think about it for those particular pieces for that one, because I know that like I had an issue in the past with like some of the Pokemon cards that were a little bit thinner being in the sun, they'd kind of warp a little bit, which for the most part, most of that's okay now. But anyway, that was just something that I hadn't anticipated happening. So that's kind of my plan towards fixing that one. And so then just in general for those markets, I'm probably hitting like on a really crappy day at my farmer's market is like maybe $50, but like a good day is around like 200. And then at the swim meet, it's probably between like 1 and 300, depending on the meet. So the past couple of meets have been around 300, which is good. I'm just curious if that's going to drop off at all. Cause like, especially cause like there was one lady that was like basically 100 of that through the like dragons and eggs that she had gotten. So it's like, okay, like I don't want to keep high expectations that's what it's going to be like every time. So that's where I think the like 100 to 300 range is going to be for those subsequent swim meets. So we'll see how that stuff kind of plays out. But I'm hoping that adding on the just general animals and being, you know, someone's favorite animal will help kind of bolster that a little bit with a wider offering that catches more of those kids' attention that didn't see something they originally had actually wanted. Because actually, one thing that I'm actually really excited about is it's like this little axolotl model that's actually more durable, because normally like on the models that I found, like the frills of the axolotl, while they're more detailed, they're more fragile, because like especially on the Minecraft version of that, of how they're set up, like those broke super duper easy. So I stopped selling that one because it's like I'm not gonna sell something that breaks easy. So anyway, yeah. And then I'm kind of scoping out potentially doing some other farmers markets that are in the area. There's also a 4th of July event that has a car show also attached on it, because I do have a little bit of like car stuff in terms of like keychains and whatnot that I do sell. So I'm still on the fence about doing that one, because it's like $150, but it's only a 2-hour window. So I'm like, I don't know, because like I'd probably have to have, because as you had mentioned, adding on some of the, like the smaller dollar items, I've kind of been like, I started with the smaller dollar items, and I've kind of been adding on ones that are in the like $30, $40, $50 bigger items, with some of these like yard and garden items with like the spinners and things, and like the helmets. So I'm trying to increase that overall revenue by finding those occasional like higher dollar items, and I'll eventually get more of the like laser engraved and CNC stuff rolling into there as well. But I'll have to be more choosy about display space. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Nice. Well, with that note,
Somebody's watching me. It's my anxiety.
all right. So this week on What You Watching, my first one I'm going to kick off with is Belusian Sam. Made a beautiful paraqueen falcon that looked so real as when I was flipping through it that I thought it was real at first. I was like, oh wow, cool falcon. And I'm like, whoa, that's wood. That's cool. And I mean, his birds are always amazing.
Right.
So I was just blown. But this one specifically, the bird of prey, and with it being larger and with the amount of colors he put into it, it just looked it looked like a new bird, or a real bird. So I was
surprised that I didn't actually see that, because I usually see all of his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, yeah, I really love that.
Right. Yeah, it's gorgeous. But that's my first one.
First one that I have is Chelsea over at Evergreen Daydreams. So she had posted a reel with a bunch of very hyper realistic mushrooms that are just really, really cool. So she had a lot of variety of color, had a couple of the ones that were that like red with polka dots on them. And then, because the detail that I notice is the detail under the head of the mushroom, where you have the it's where the spores come from on the mushroom. So just the extra little detail underneath there that I was like, just really added to the realism of it.
Yeah, her work is always amazing. Plus, she's an amazing person. So I always love seeing what she does. My next one is Silver Hair and Sawdust. She made a gorgeous whiskey cabinet, and it's a offcuts and scrap wood whiskey cabinet. So it's got French doors that open up, and those doors are made from a collage of different woods, which were just awesome. And then the 2 drawers underneath, along with the body of it, was made from walnut offcuts, and it is gorgeous. I don't know anybody who makes something more amazing off of offcuts and scraps. It was just a really cool piece of functional furniture that's just all salvaged. So it was really cool.
Wonderful. My next and last one is from Citrus Cedar. So they had a kind of like a regular branch, very organic shape, that they used the angle grinder with one of those kind of cutting attachments in order to cut the channel in order to lay an LED light strip. So it was just a full-on freehand channel to fit the organic shape, and then they inset with that LED light strip that looked great. So that's something where I love that style of lamp with those LED strips in the wood.
Yeah. Cool. My next one is Ridged Oak Woodworks. So this person tagged us and tagged me as well. They made a really cool Stay Squatchy sign that they tagged the podcast and myself on. And I think the thing that blew me away by this person was that they made it completely by hand with the router. and not like a palm router, but with like a two-handed full-size router that they were just like carving this sign out of. It looks really good, and then they hand painted it too. So I was properly impressed because it's definitely something I can't do.
Yeah.
And then my last one is KGW Woodcraft. Made a really cool, you got to go check this out, a really cool Mad Hatter and White Rabbit totem pole. Multiple carvings, all different colors. It is a Alice in Wonderland themed totem pole, specifically around the Mad Hatter and the White Rabbit. And it's just a masterpiece of art. So impressed. So
Nice.
Yeah. Couldn't say better. Well, with that note,
I don't want to work anymore because I'm working every day very hard and I never had money.
so we're going to talk about
Emotional
burnout tonight.
damage.
Emotional damage. You're still a failure.
That wasn't the same guy, but
Just because
it was
he's
a different
Asian,
guy.
you think they were the same?
No, this
I don't
guy.
want to work anymore because I'm working every day very hard and I never had money.
Anyways, so tonight's topic is about burnout, something that we all deal with, especially anybody who has ADHD. Not ACD, which is ACDC, which is what my brain always wants to say when I'm trying to say ADHD. But so I guess I have a couple of questions that I answered in my notes here, which was, how often do you get it? When do you recognize it coming on? What does it look like for you? And how do you deal with burnout? So Alex, let's start, I'm going to plug these at you too, and we can kind of go back and forth here, but, how often do you get burnout?
I would say probably somewhere between that like 3 and 6 month time frame. And for me specifically, it's kind of this like, frog in the boiling water that gradually increases in temperature, where it's like you don't notice it until it comes to a head and you're just like, I just don't feel like myself. And it's like, for me specifically, it's because of the focus on one thing and neglecting some other things like on that you would normally do on kind of like a daily basis. And then that thing kind of comes up and it creeps up on you, and then it becomes a bigger issue, and it becomes more of an anxiety ridden task. And this, then just speaking for myself on this, but I'm sure some people can relate, is that sometimes when you're in that mental state, especially if you feel like you're backed into a corner time-wise, where you're just like, I don't know how I can get all of these things done on my list with the time that I have, is that small things that pop up, like unexpected things, become an even bigger deal than they actually are, or your reaction to it is bigger than what it probably should be. Like small annoyances or things where it's just like, I can't deal with this right now. But it's something that you like walk past, where it's like, say, a handrail in your house, like breaks or something like that. And there's that like visual reminder as you go by. And each time that you go, like, you get that same amount of like either anxiety or like, oh, I need to work on that. Like that, it's mentally draining you instead of just one time mentally draining on you between when whatever happened and when you actually fix it. It's doing it multiple times. And so it's having a multiplied effect on you as a result. And maybe that's an ADHD thing. Maybe it's a more general thing. I'm not sure. I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist, what have you. I just know it's how it affects me. I
know for me, like I get burnout every day. But I get the big bee burnout. I like to say I get little bee burnout pretty much once a week, or if not a couple of times a week, and then big bee burnout, every it hits me basically every 6 months, because of the way I run my business and I run my life. Really in the heat of the summer, which is a little bit of a downtime for me because I can't do a ton in the garage with how hot it gets. And that's usually a little bit slower of the season anyway. And then right after the holidays, once I've put all of my work in building and then all of my time into the markets, I get that burnout of during the summer. It's like, it's too hot. It's too much like work to go outside. I just want to stay inside where it's cool and, play on my Xbox or something. Where after the holidays, it's like, man, I've been working straight for 3 months. I need a break and I'm so burnt out. So I know that for me, that's kind of it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my big B burnouts where my little ones are. I get them pretty much every week where I'm like, I don't want to work today. I did so many podcasts or so many things or answered so many emails today. I just don't want to,
Yeah. And also too, even in particular in the shop space where it's like, if I get into that rushed state where I don't feel like I have time for stuff, then I'm not putting stuff back where it should be, and then it stays out, and then it gets in the way, and it makes just moving around in the shop that much more laborious, or like it makes something that should be simple, like there's much more friction there, because like there's so much crap behind me right now in the garage space that I know I need to clean out. It's like, I know I have the space if I clean the environment that I have, because like I was kind of telling you a little bit earlier about the 3D print room, where it's like the rolls of filament that kind of just I had them sitting on the ground as opposed to like stacked up somewhere, but then I finally got like a shelf to put in to kind of stack them back, and I just feel better when I'm in that space, because there's not that extra bit of mental weight of like having to dance around stuff to get around, or accidentally like step on something because you have to like step around a specific path like you're in the Temple of Doom or whatever.
Yeah. And I know go ahead.
So anyway, like and sometimes you don't realize how much that has effect on you until you actually do clean it up, and you're like, I just feel better in this space now. And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much this was actually taxing on me.
Right. Yeah. So my next question was, how do you recognize it coming on? For me, it's definitely kind of like what you had said for you of where I don't feel like myself. So like the things that excited me, or the things I would normally be like, I'm going to get out in the garage and go do or work on, are like, I don't need to today. Like that is that feeling. As soon as I start feeling that, I know that I'm getting to a burnout point, and or like when somebody messages me and says, hey, how do you, because I get a lot of emails from people. I get a lot of emails from people asking help on woodworking projects, help on content creator stuff, like a whole bunch of different things. And I'm happy to give the help. I love giving the help. It is something that I pride myself on, where I know a lot of content creators and a lot of people in this space aren't accessible. And I'm one of those people where like, if you want to email me and ask me a question, I will always answer you. Even if it's hey, I have 5 minutes today, this is my quick answer, give me a call tomorrow and let's chat, or something like that. And I know when all of a sudden I'll read an email and I'm like, another email today, and I go, okay, wait a minute, I'm a little burnt out. I need to go get outside and walk around for a bit and get my mojo back on, because I never want to not be accessible, and burnout happens really quickly for me when it comes to being overwhelmed with feeling like I have a lot of things to do at once. And so you had kind of answered that one. So how do you deal with burnout for you?
So if I am in that stage where it's like I've kind of let some things slip, whether it's like general stuff around the house where it's like, oh, like, the dishes pile up, or like the laundry is like kind of backed up, or stuff like that, where it's like, all right, for me, I pick a thing and I say, all right, this is my beachhead where I'm not going to let stuff go. I'm just focusing on one particular thing. It could be like sweeping up sawdust in the shop, or like I had mentioned, like laundry around the house where it's like staying on top of it for a little while, or because since I work from home, the house and the shop space, like I'm always there. So keeping the house organized keeps me in a better mental state because I am walking around the house to get to the shop and work on things. So that like, that's how I start, is I pick something that to me is manageable and I fix that thing, or I make that spot my like, that like clean space where it's like mentally this place is clean. So like, for example, like, you know, our dining table gets filled with crap every now and again. So it's like, okay, like I need to go through, get stuff put away. You find some of the things that you were looking for. Same thing with a shop where it's like, oh, I have extra bits of wood in storage on my racks. It's like, I haven't used this for months. This needs to get put away in a different spot that's more like long-term storage or out of the way, so that I have more room to work. And so that's like, for me, that's just kind of like general, like tidying up. If there's any like trash or something that needs to be thrown out that helps with tidying up, to me, that like that, because I'm very spatial in how I perceive things in an environment, and to me that just helps my mood in general and feels like I'm not, I don't want to call it being claustrophobic in your space, but you feel like you've got room to do the stuff that you need to, and you don't feel like you're going to step on something or ruin something just by like moving around in the space. And just because that's the other thing too, is that like sometimes I don't feel like I can be in that space. And so just even getting and being in that shop space is enough to be like, okay, I've gotten over that hurdle of being back in the space. I know that it's dirty, but I don't want to be in that space because I feel the anxiety of everything being so close. And, like I said, again, not quite claustrophobic, but like you don't have the range of motion that you want to do the things that you feel like you need to do. And the other thing too is that like sometimes doing something with friends or other people to get your mind off of it when you're in a space that like you can't do something in the shop, so you don't feel guilty not doing something there. So if it's like my wife says, hey, like, do you want to go have supper with these friends or something like that? And it's just like, I have kind of put off doing stuff with other people. I probably should do that just to kind of clear my head, because even though on paper I should be spending more time, I know that if I go do this, it'll clear my head. So I'll actually make use of that time instead of just kind of like sitting and spinning. Because sometimes that's just kind of what it feels like, where it's like the loading screen like on your forehead, where it's like, even if you're in the space, you're not doing anything. So you're just kind of literally just spinning your wheels being in that environment. So sometimes it takes, like you had mentioned, like going outside and touching grass or whatever you want to call it, being in nature or whatnot, can help out significantly. Or like doing something in the garden or yard work or what have you, something physical, or sometimes just exercising or doing something to like get the blood moving and pumping, so it just kind of like flushes out some of those, you know, chemicals in the brain or whatever, so that you just like don't get stale, if you will, and sedentary. Because I feel like that too, where it's like
that serotonin hit.
Right, yeah, you're not bed rotting or whatever, because it can be easy, especially if you are in a self-employment environment where it's like there's no external force pushing on you. It can be easy to slip into that, like sit and kind of spin your wheels on something that shouldn't take that long.
I mean, I would say it's the same even for anyone who works from home, because I work from home and have a day job, but I also work out of my shop too for my other job. And so like both, I get the same way. So like I said, I have little B burnout and big B burnout, and during the little B, getting out, like you said, getting outside, walking around really helps. Or going out and doing something in the garden, or even just even just sitting outside on my back deck and putting and reading a book for a bit or something like that. That is a big one. And I guess for me, like, how do I deal with burnout? So if it's little B, I give myself a break. I try and remind myself, you know what, if I need a break right now, I obviously need one. So I'm going to go play that video game for an hour. I'm going to check out for the night and just say, you know what, I'm done tonight. I'm not going to do anything. We'll start again fresh tomorrow. That's the little one where I'm trying. You got to give yourself permission to be done and to walk away. Where I think a lot of people don't. They feel that pressure that, oh, they have to do something. They have to get it. The more pressure you get, you're going to be. It's just like anybody who deals with anxiety, like myself. You're just going to get an anxiety loop of just, I feel that pressure. I got to do it. I don't want to do it. But and then around and around and around. So that's how I deal with little B. For big B, so like I said, I pretty much, because of the way I run my business, I know when the big B burnout's going to come because of after the big production or stuff. So I plan my vacations around when I expect my big burnout to happen. So like January for me usually is a month where I'm like, I'm taking January off. I'm not woodworking, or if I am, I'm just doing a me project that I'm not going to film. I'm not going to post online about. I'm just doing me stuff. And so, I try and do that as much as I can. With the big burnout stuff is take a week, and you know, relax. Don't think about it. Especially get off your phone. If you're a content creator, get off your phone.
Yep.
And then that kind of goes into the next one, which is, you know, how do you move forward, or how do you deal with it? And so for me, like when my big B burnouts happen, I come back the last day, like usually the day before I come back from vacation or whatever. Like I sit down, I have a big paper calendar. I set 5 goals I want to do this week. I set a schedule for the next month of these are the videos I'm going to do. These are the projects I'm going to do. And so when I get back to work, quote unquote work, I have a list of things I need to accomplish and a timeline to do it in. Because if I don't, then I'm just going to get stuck in that. Well, I don't need to do anything today because I don't have anything clearly telling me to do it. And I think a lot of people don't. My wife was a great suggestion on that, which was get that big paper calendar, because I have everything in my phone digitally, but I really like having the big paper calendar that we have up in our our kitchen. And I've got Post-it notes of when my videos are coming out. I've got, you know, marked here when I need to be working on something. One, it helps my wife look at what I'm doing and ask me, hey, is there something you should be working on? But also it's a nice big visual thing that's not digital that I can look at. And taking that time to actually create it is also really good for your mental health, to be like, all right, these are the things I'm doing this month. I'm going to get them. And then when I can take one of those Post-it notes off and be like, I'm done. That project's done. It's off the board. It's so satisfying. So yeah, that's how I do with that's how I kind of, after burnout, that's how I get going again. What about you?
So sometimes what I'll look at is what is something that is like a drain or is like a parasite to me, that's like that may be something that I just don't necessarily have to do, which kind of like can sometimes be a little bit of like social media, where it's like, all right, that's something that is draining me, so I need to peel back on that. Or, you know, it can, sometimes it's a little bit on certain projects where it's like, all right, I don't want to push this particular project or product line that I have, or advertise as much, because I know that I'm not going to have the time to do that. Because it's like, I could very easily push laser engraving stuff at the farmer's market and whatnot, but it's like, does it make sense to do this right now? It doesn't. Or when it comes to any projects that are coming in the door, saying like, all right, is this something that I can do? I mean, obviously there's like, we've all been in that spot where it's like financially you like feel like you have to take on projects just to like keep stuff rolling. But if you can get to a stage where it's like, okay, I can be a little bit more choosy on stuff and say like, all right, this is probably something that is gonna like become like a bleeding project or something that I will probably underquote and will probably be much more involved than I need it to be. Because I can't remember, I told you about the like refinishing the tabletop or whatever because they just wanted like a clear coat thing. Like that was an example of something where I'm like, there's no scenario where I see this going well, so I'm gonna hand this off to someone else because it's gonna be more of a drain than it is whatever it could end up being like revenue wise. Because like I don't even want to give the no thank you price because I don't think there's anything worth it for the like the amount of potential follow on work that I would need to do for something like that.
I just had one of those myself too, where somebody had reached out, and again, it was not necessarily burnout, but knowing that it would cause burnout. Because they reached out and they're like, "Hey, I want a dice tower," but this was the weirdest request I've had in a long time too. I would like a dice tower, but not something D&D related. I want a mid-century modern dice tower, please.
Interesting.
Which was an interesting concept, but in my brain went, I don't have any designs for that. I'm designing something brand new. And if somebody is already under like, what does a mid-century modern dice tower even look like? For one, and two, like if that's the kind of style, I can tell that this customer is not going to be happy with anything I create. So I'm like, I don't think this is something for me.
Yeah. And then, I know something that does help me is that my wife hates it, but there's a reason why I do it is that I always have AirPods in to minimize distraction because
so do I.
With us both being working from home, it makes us much more accessible than we would be otherwise. So that delineation, that you normally would have is no longer there. So it's like it's an extra barrier of keeping me focused. And so I will switch between a couple of different mediums that I actually have going through. So depending on the task or what I'm doing, I'll either just have my music on shuffle, I'll have a podcast going, I might have like a TV show or a movie or something like that I'm watching that I kind of like bring my phone around with me to like watch or do. And it just kind of depends on the task. And so sometimes I will use that as a way to kind of ease myself into the shop if I am in that kind of like anxious to get into the shop because there's just so much going on that you just get overstimulated. So the other thing too is that especially if I have it running on like, say like a TV series or a movie or something like that, it actually naturally kind of locks myself out of using the phone for other stuff because the screen real estate is used for that. So I'm not as tempted to like go on and use the phone for other stuff. And so like, obviously I'm not like watching a TV series while I like, doing like something like with a saw or whatever, but like, that would be a scenario.
Yes,
It'd be more like
we do not condone using a table saw and while watching the television.
Right. Yeah. So I'll pick something like I would in that scenario more likely to have either a podcast or just music going where it's something where it's like I could fade in and out of it. And if I miss something because I'm concentrating on a cut, wait till I'm done, back it up, a minute or two and then re-listen to it and it's fine or whatever. Or if it's just music, like I just keep on going with the song or whatever, because it's no big deal. But if I'm like sanding or whatever, that's when I'm more likely to have a movie or TV series going in the background or something like that to kind of keep things a little bit more like steady and focused while I'm on that kind of monotonous task to kind of keep me on task and from getting pulled away from it. So like right now, as I'm doing a lot of sanding on a large surface area, it's like, yeah, I'll throw on a movie or TV series or, what have you, on in the background. And sometimes I'll actually start that TV series on the phone, walk down to the shop so I'm distracted as I go in, and then either throw it on the TV or keep it on the phone or whatever as I start doing, what have you. And then sometimes if I start chipping away at making the workspace more usable, like tossing trash or getting stuff more organized for like projects and whatnot, then once I get enough of that breathing room, sometimes I'll look at some of the process or workflow in that space to say, okay, I'm ready to make a change on this because, my filament storage is not good enough. So I need to have it be more accessible and easy to get to. So then it's just quicker and faster. Or same thing with like wood or whatever, for upcoming projects that's in like lumber storage or something like that. So it's kind of like picking and choosing those battles, kind of like a little bit what I mentioned earlier about like finding that beachhead and saying like, all right, I'm keeping this area clean. It's not the entire shop, but it's one space that I'm keeping clean for now. And I can still like use this space without extra crap getting in the way and causing more distress than needs to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that about covers it.
Yeah, we solved burnout.
Yep.
You just won't have it. Just don't have burnout, right? And
yep. You won't ever have it again now.
Exactly.
Just listen to this podcast and you'll never have burnout.
Foolproof. 100%.
Good news, everyone.
News. IWF is coming up in August.
Gosh, August sounds so far away, but it's so much closer than it actually is.
Right. Texas Woodworking Festival in Austin in September, end of September. I remember I'm teaching a class there. Tickets are on sale now. I don't got any other news. You got any other news?
I have one thing that I'll recap on. So I think I had mentioned last week about the bamboo, was it A2L or something like that coming out?
Yes.
And apparently there are a few extra features on there that you can swap out the print head for other stuff. Like you can have it like just kind of like sometimes on like a CNC or whatever, where you can put something on the head because it is a movable gantry to do other stuff. Because I think it is, I forget what the.
Can you add like a laser module and?
It's not a laser module, but I think there's a component for like drawing with a marker, and then there was something
from Next Wave.
Yeah, it was similar to that, and then gosh, what was the other one? Was it something with stickers? I don't think it was like a true vinyl cutter, but they're kind of leaning into the modularity of using that gantry for a couple of other things. So that was just kind of interesting that was also a portion of that I had originally missed when they made that original product announcement, because I just hadn't looked in it very, very much.
Nice. All right. Well, we appreciate each and every one of you for listening to the podcast. Remember, you can become a patron of the podcast over at Whatcha Makin Show at Patreon. And please leave us a like, message, and review on Spotify or YouTube to help help the channel keep growing. Yeah. And with that, just remember,
in case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Don't burn out in your shop, burn out in the parking lot.